Hi, my name is Marissa, and this is Risa Rising, and over here we talk about the age of Pisces combining with the age of Aquarius, and that's where we are in history right now as we cross over fully into the age of Aquarius. So today I wanted to talk about the first house in juxtaposition to the seventh house, and what that means on a societal level. So, I'm trying to get the stripes off my face, but so when we talk about the first house is the identity house. It's actually a lot more than just what you, the physical traits that you may have, or the way that society guesses that you are. It's actually a lot deeper than that. It's your directional path in this life, and your rising sign on a personal level affects every single other house. So when we talk about the rising sign, it also encompasses well, I just said the directional path, the physicality, it's your morals or beliefs, it's your values. It can be extremely representative of, and on a societal level, I believe that it represents you on a societal level, I believe that it represents males. The initial ruler of the first house is going to be Aries. And Aries is a very selfish sign. But at the same time, this is you. This is your physical being. This is the 1 through 6, one of the 1 through 6 houses that is you physically, right? So what does that mean on a societal level? Obviously, it can't mean every individual person. But it means, I think that it means more of a representative of male energy, because it initially comes from Aries. So what does that mean? How did that break down? So males were represented in art. Males are white males specifically, because we're talking about people who are in power. And even though this is a mix of Pisces and Aries, you could really see like this dominating sort of force, right? It is one of those houses, I believe, along with Leo, it is a very dominant and forceful house. And Scorpio, there's other houses like that too. But these very dominant, very forceful houses, these houses that used to be about war and and male dominance, and we got to get it all and manifest destiny, like all these things that are representative of males. So, and this is my opinion, I truly believe it's like the ones that, kind of terrorize the community. Like Aries to me is as a small little terrorizer. But yes, so what did we see? How did that become combined in the age of Pisces and this Aryan energy? Well, we saw Pisces represents religion, right? So we saw males taking over religion, having this male deity. And here in the United States, it was Jesus, right? So modifying his appearance to fit a narrative, right? So religion is one of the biggest themes that we see this sort of manipulation and dominance in. Art and artistry, we see, because Pisces represents the artist, for the sake of having art. And we see a lot of art that was continuously stolen, whether it be from men stealing works of art from their wives, or the white collective stealing from the oppressed African Americans in this country, earning cool points with the rest of the world off of it, right? So also, I believe that no one in modern history has been able to market the way Americans have. And this sort of streets are filled with gold illusion that of coming to America, rather than what America really was. And even keeping up that sort of mask years later, even though you know that you would be oppressed here. So it's this delusion and illusion, and it's what I expect. because it's a very much I house. What I expect. What am I getting from this? Come and worship me. And the head of that household would be males, right? Now you look at the juxtaposition of the 7th house, and I personally think that represents those who are othered. I'm talking about women. Women, I believe that the 7th house, regardless of who's there, will represent women in society. And it's that's one of those houses. So the 1st through the 6th are like your personal houses, right? They are your personal makeup, what you expect, what's happening in your life, but the 7th through the 12th is societal. And when we watch the 12th house move into the 1st house, you have a mix of what is societally happening, what's societally been hidden, also with what's going on with you personally. So the 7th house it's women and what was expected of them. So the 1st house is more like, how do you treat me? How do you treat me? And how do I treat? And then the 2nd house is how do I treat others? What's the expectation? So our 7th house in the age of Pisces was ruled by Virgo. That's the house of the servant. That's a very tough placement, right? And you have the house of the servant and the house of marriage, because that's what it represents at large. It's marriage and contract. It's called the house of marriage. It's marriage and marriage and law and contracts, things of that nature. Normally ruled by Libra, but this time it was ruled by Virgo. So it was very pragmatic. It's a very pragmatic placement. And how do you barter? How do you keep the riches in the family, also being oppressive of women? So you had the servant in the house of marriage. So in America, we already know that there were it was servitude in that house. Something that still goes on today, that women are pushing back on, younger women, older women, just being done with that dynamic of having a servant. And in my opinion, women made poor men feel rich. They made poor men feel rich. Because a rich man, he's married, his wife can get a cook, his wife can get a maid, his wife can get a nanny. So you're living this rich life, right? Things are taken care of for you. But when you are not rich and your wife has to now do all these things, so these are tasks that are actually being taken off of your plate, because a lot of men did not contribute to these things. They did not contribute to cooking. They did not contribute to cleaning. They did not contribute to child rearing. They didn't contribute to this. They didn't contribute to these things at all, and they're known for not contributing. And this is something that the women just handle. But the thing is, with Virgo just does it because it needs to get done. It needs to get done. That is a very Virgo thing. If you know any Virgos, they will do things because they need to get done. I have a very strong Virgo in my chart, and even though acts of service are very important to me, they do make me feel seen and valued. If you live in the house, you should be doing these things. These are not favors. You need to be doing these. You need to be taking out the trash. You should cook every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking over here and I'm like, what is this all over here? Yeah, because the time before I went over really what Pisces encompassed. And now I'm just saying like what houses, or how these houses were affected. But the men in the first, from the male aspect, males in society being the first house, white males specifically, but male, because this is in every community. This is in every community that you have this displaced energy, right? Or right now we're seeing like a whole not gender war, because the war is very much one-sided on this Aries male sort of thing where women are saying, I'm not doing it anymore, go get somebody else. There is no war. But it's saying, if there is one, it's entirely one-sided for those who just want to fight. But women are reclaiming their bodily autonomy, right? It's only been in the past 30 years that marital rape was even considered that. It's only been, right? I think it's been in the past 30 years. It's only been since the 70s that women can own credit cards, and I think it was either the 50s or the 60s where stalking was considered, scary. Like, no, restraining order. Other than that, you should be happy that a man is so interested in you. And it's like, girl, this man is hiding in my bushes. Why in God's name would that be something attractive to me? But it was. Men would be like, he's just so infatuated with you, girl. If it was the 1950s and I thought a man was hiding in my bushes, that's when you just pour hot oil down out your window. Because I'll be damned if I'm trying to do something and you snatch me in those bushes and harm me. Girl, leave me alone. But that sounded crazy, but you needed to defend yourself, period. But if you think about it, this, not even, the thing is with Pisces and Virgo being sister signs, they both have this thing of martyrdom. However, the way it manifested for women is, I will sacrifice myself for my family because that's what I'm supposed to do. And that's what the church says I'm supposed to do. How it demonstrated itself on the male side was people sacrificed themselves for me. And that includes Christ. What I have really noticed is the white Christian church, a great portion of it, I'm not saying all of it, but a great portion of the white Christian church believes that when the Bible verse says, for God to love the world that he gave his only begotten son, they feel like he was supposed to do that. That's a sacrifice that he was supposed to make for us. And he or she, we don't know the gender of God. But, them. But, the deity. But, they believe that God truly was supposed to die for them. Because they're just, why wouldn't he do that? And that's not the case. It's the misunderstanding or the refusal to understand what sacrifice means, or the lack of understanding of what sacrifice means. It was a sacrifice. There is this feeling, I believe, that happens a lot of with white Christians, where it's what comes to me. This is how I feel. There's an uplifting of white feelings in this country at the sacrifice of truth. There is a huge sacrifice of truth and a huge coddling of feelings, which is very much the first house energy. And because white males here in America are in power, it does trickle down to a lot of white women, and they get that radiance off of them while still being an oppressed person. You're still in the 7th house. You're still in the 7th house. The United States has come a long way since 1950, and a lot of women had to fight for power or their own bodily autonomy. I mean, to me, I only started noticing that when you put something in a woman's drink, that was only called date grape in the 90s. There's so many songs about Spanish fly. You're still an oppressed person. So it's There are so many songs in the 70s and the 80s just casually mentioning Spanish fly, and people in, like, there's people being recorded talking in the 1970s about how easy it is to slip I think it was called a Mickey, in somebody's drink. That still wasn't recognized as you're harming someone or you're graping them. You know what I'm saying? That is a new concept. That's in my lifetime that was even recognized as that. And with the state of what's going on in America, it is wild to think that you would give up freedoms that people had to fight for you and redo your whole fight. That's insane to me. I don't get it. That doesn't make any sort of sense to me. But I mean that as the 7th house does represent women in general. I believe that as a society, right? Okay. So going back to the 1st house, and we're talking about one of the biggest aspects, because once again, I'm speaking from somebody who has viewed America through the shadow side of Pisces. Can I acknowledge that there were a lot of positives that came with the age of Pisces? Yes, but to me, it felt like you're on the outside looking in. That's how it felt like to me. So I'm going to address some of the biggest points that I was talking about earlier, which is, the first one is going to be religion, right? Religion led to colonization. It led to perceived justification for slavery. And it kept people in bondage. It keeps people in bondage today. The suppression of women, keeping children silent. All these things were the manipulation of religion. So Pisces can be very deceptive energy, and it also is religion. And that definitely, the way it took over, it also represents manifest destiny, which is kind of like just keep pushing to conquer as much as you can. And that's that Aries energy in Pisces. And I forget, I think it's like for the sake of Christ or something, like you're doing it in God's name. The conquistadors, you're doing it in God's name. You're not, but you're just running all over these people, the indigenous that were here, the actual Americans, and in order to kill them and steal their land and say that you're doing it in the name of the Lord. That is a full manipulation of what the Bible talks about, and to the point where it's actually very, very terrifying, this weaponization. And I want to say this, I've been wanting to say this for a while, the weaponization of religion in America, and I'm speaking about Christianity. Let's go back. So according to the Google, the highest rates of literacy in the United States, which is shocking, was the 1900s. That's the 1800s. Was the 19th centuries. 19th century. That's the 1800s. That means like, oh, that's so sad for today. But the highest collective of literacy, according to the Google, was in the 1800s. In the 19th century. So that means that you could read. Right? You could read. Literacy is reading, being able to read. The Bible at this time, I believe, was mass produced, right? So people had the Bible in their home. Now, I don't know if maybe they couldn't understand it. That means it wasn't just in the hands of the clergy. Like, you had access to the information. So the access to the information, and this is one of the biggest things I feel, was, what did Jesus look like? Now, in the Bible, it talks about the color of, we presume to be his feet and skin. But it also talks about how the Lord was, I mean, the Bible was pretty harsh when they described the way that Jesus looked. I believe it says that his appearance was so disfigured. I'm hoping that that's not, no. I refuse to believe that like, like they just said that he was like really nothing to look at, right? He was not the most attractive man. They talked about his hair on his head was white as wool, his eyes were like flames and fire, and his feet were like burnished bronze. So, from that, you know, it's not when you go into the church and you see this weakly, sick-looking Jesus, it ain't it. Jesus was a big man. He was a carpenter. He was strong-looking, but not physically attractive. Like they make this feeble-looking, straight-haired, blonde, brown-haired Jesus. I feel like the reason why European Jesus is so dangerous is because the Bible talks about how we were made in his image, right? We were made in his image. European Jesus is made in the image of man. European Jesus is made in the image of man. So it's a form of idolatry. You have made this Christ figure because they say what he looked like. They said what he looked like, and he looked seemingly unfortunate looking. But brown and hair like white wool. He had a very real description. Now you can pull your artistic inspiration from that, but to rewrite the whole thing and create this sort of idolatrous image of Christ is a form of you worshiping yourself. And when I see here in America, there is a saying that there is no hate like Christian love. And when we think about the things that Christians believe in, which is fighting against free lunches or fighting against food for homeless people, fighting against services for women, fighting against family leave and sick pay, I don't want to hear what you feel like as an individual, because those are the representatives that you're putting in power over and over and over again. This is well before Trump. The cutting of social services, the active need to not help thy neighbor, that is a form of self-worship. That is a form of self-worship, and that is a form of scarcity mindset. Where as long as my kids can eat and eat in abundance, like, I don't want you having anything. Not even your kids, from what we've learned in this generation. It's not even your kids, it's you in particular. It's you in particular, because the generation before voted against safety programs that they enjoyed so that their kids couldn't enjoy them either. Or their kids couldn't enjoy them. But I do think that the boomer generation has a lot of Leo in them, so they're weirdly competitive with the millennials. Weirdly competitive. So, sorry about that. I just got off course. But one of the main reasons to have this idolatrous Jesus and this form that he took, where he was created in the image of man, and especially the image of the white male, served in creating this deeply hierarchical, if that's even a word, form that the white man is the descendant of Christ, right? And should be treated as such. Now, I think, when I think of the actual depiction of Jesus as this revolutionary, which he was, a revolutionary, a big man, a strong man, this symbol of sort of hope, and seeing that the image that the church brought up, which is still very much used today. I literally just went to a wedding, and I saw the Christ-like figure hanging off, and it is a weak, sickly. I'm gonna say it. It's almost like pathetic looking martyrdom Jesus, where it's just sort of like, I'll just give my life for the world, and that seems to be the end of the journey of Jesus for a lot of Christians and a lot of Christian churches. But there was so much more that he did. I'm just looking at my notes real quick. And we're also finding out so much of the Bible. Now, I knew this as a child. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that I had this thought as a kid, that we should take the Bible with a grain of salt, right? Because it's written by man. And I think man is, if I'm correct, man is the only creation that Jesus actually regretted. Man is the only creation that Jesus regretted creating. And he actually had to like rest on because he had created so much, but man, it's on the 6th day. He had to rest after he created man. Now, if you have this extremely flawed individual that even the Lord had to take a break after creating, and he regretted, and you have them writing a holy book that's going to influence people for thousands of years, why would you think that there wouldn't be anything I think the word is impressionary. Why wouldn't you think that their own thoughts and feelings wouldn't make it into that book? Why would you think that there wouldn't be something in there that was meant to control the masses? And I think that's one of the reasons also why God called you to have your own personal relationship with him. Not just one that's influenced by the church and you go to church and they preach. You are meant to ask questions, and that's why you were given the free will that you were given. Ask questions, and it's your job as a Christian to challenge the church when they are wrong, when your pastor is wrong, when the people involved are wrong. You are meant to stand up in the church and call them out. Not once, not twice. If they continue 3 times and you're out, you are supposed to remove them from the church. But the fact that this religion was manipulated and men chose to empower themselves through religion, that wasn't the case, right? You had women who wanted to leave their husbands for infidelity, which would have got you stoned back in the day, and even though the Lord said he hated divorce, you could get one for infidelity. You had the Christian church perverting it, saying that if you were a good woman, you would stay with that man. There's something you're doing that's not correct. That's not aligning with the Lord's will, which is the damn opposite of what the Bible says. The Bible actually wanted you to get married. Some men to get married, men who could afford it. They wanted you to get married to be able to control yourself. The Bible talks a lot about sexual discipline. And if you're just out here running wild, you are not of Christ. That is not Christ-like behavior at all. Now, if you need help for it and you announce that you need help for it, that is one thing. But if you're just saying, well, I'm a man and this is what I like, that is not of Christ. Okay. Hold on just a moment. I'm going to look at my notes. Here's another thing I wanted to say that I found to be really interesting. I think I was talking earlier about the image of Jesus and how it was very empowering, and his message was very, very empowering. Very Aquarius. He was a revolutionary. He cared for the sick and the ill and the infirmed and the disabled and women and children. He cared for those and the meek. He cared for those who had no power. So he was strong in physical body and strong in presence. However, the image that has been presented as far as this sickly looking Jesus is pale, it's meek, it's fragile. He has very straight hair. It intentionally separates. Intentionally separates everybody else and makes this almost like an inferior sort of, like, it's an inferior depiction, absolutely. But it's the depiction that the white population of America has seen, like Jesus is a victim up on that cross. It's a image that white people have seen themselves in and projected out, no matter how much harm is done to other people in other communities. They see themselves as this meek, fragile, when confronted with the evil that's been done. Meek, fragile, victimhood-esque, not even victimhood-esque, straight up victimhood. I don't want to talk about it, I don't want to do this, let's not make it about this right now. This essential victimhood that they have projected and they see themselves through while being the villain. That's the crazy part. You cannot do both. You cannot do both. So that's what I wanted to say. And because there is this glorification of beauty in Pisces, and especially when Pisces and Aries energies mix, he had to like have this appeal of being soft-faced and beautiful and fragile, and you know, that's on the candle. That sort of like imagery, right? So beauty played a part, because you can imagine if they had this unfortunate looking version of Jesus, nobody would want to worship him. He had to be beautiful. Okay. So I wanted to make sure that I brought up the manipulation of, also another thing, Pisces made it so, and this is the access of the first and the seventh house, Pisces, the era of Pisces and religion made it so that a poor man could live like a rich man. They said that every man deserved a wife. And I said earlier about how women enrich men's lives, and they let them live like rich men. Over the last 1,000 years, I would assume, in the era of Taurus and the age of Taurus and the age of Aquarius and the age of Aries, women are luxurious. They're luxuries. Even now, women are luxuries, but they're taught to speak down and be like, oh, you're really not. Like that negging has been going on for thousands of years, of saying that women have no worth, or their worth comes through a man, but also being very high value of the type of woman that you get, right? Because they're seen as a luxury. They are enriching of men's lives. It's the reason why men, when they have a woman in their life, especially a wife, they live longer. They're happier in marriage. They are happier. And it doesn't matter what they say. It matters about the statistics of what's actually happening. Because they are notorious for telling women to devaluing women in this time period. But in the age of Taurus, age of Aries, women were always a luxury. In the Bible, it was a luxury to have a family. Not everybody got to pass down their genes, and we could see that was a very good thing. That was a very good thing. If you could afford a family, then you could have a family. If you could afford a wife, then you could marry a wife. You could, like I said, even my previous video, you could divorce a woman over anything. She could put too much salt in your food, and you could divorce her, but you were responsible for taking care of her and her entire family for the rest of your life. Understand that. Women were a luxury. And I think we're going to go back into that mindset of, you can't afford it. You can't afford me, you can't afford a family. If you want to be stingy, you want to be selfish, then that's fine, you'll be by yourself. If you are not a generous man, if you don't want to be generous, how do you have a family and you're not a generous person? That's crazy to me. But yes, so religion was used to control the masses, used to keep people in bondage, 1,000%. It was one of the main arguments for keeping chattel slavery going. was religion, and saying that there was, and even now people try to justify slavery by saying it was in the Bible, but it wasn't this type of slavery. There was a protocol that you had to have when keeping slaves. And there was a reason for the servitude, right? You owed somebody money. It wasn't just generational slavery, or being unfortunate to be fortunate enough to be born into it. So that's one of the biggest things I wanted to make sure that we got through. The second one I wanted to talk about was artistry in America, because Pisces represents art for the sake of the artist. Now, we know so many artists, writers, that it was the women who were writing, and the men would take credit for their work, right? There was so much theft of artistry. And I know, as being a black woman, it is very, very clear that about the artistry that was happening in America. You can even see it with Beyonce reclaiming country music. That is music that was brought to the Americas from the enslaved Africans. Or there is strong influence there of Africans, and the music. And we talk about country music, we think about the origin, which is from the banjo. That's what I mean. They brought over this instrument that is very similar in Africa to a banjo. And they made a banjo, and they made music. And even some of the songs that we sing that are nursery rhymes are slave hymns. Nursery rhymes turned into slave hymns. Music of suffering and despair turned into profit for white America, such as blues, such as rock, such as country music, pop music, punk music, house music, hip hop. Every single thing, almost every single brand of music that is in America, or that is even popular global, came from black America. And white people took it and slapped their name on it, watered it down, and said that this is ours now. There is no one been able to sell a dream the way America has. Come to America, the streets are paved with gold, while also being treated like absolute shit. And like you're not wanted, while being invited to be there. One of the main things I think about are for immigrants is the Italian immigrants, the Irish immigrants, people that were wildly discriminated against when they first got off those ships, put in ghettos and used for their labor, but met with such disdain. And even though that they were also white, but there was like, in the beginning, there was like a distinguish about how white you were, how pure you were here in America. So those are some things that I really wanted to discuss as far as the age of Pisces going, like what are we leaving behind? And right now we're in this fighting period of what the first house in Aquarius could be. So we already see the development of AI and how it has been an enormous influence on us. Now, for me, I understand that we were taught to fear the robots and the AI, but what I am seeing is AI is a factual tool. I see AI trying to be used for evil, right? You can see, I think it's Grunk on Elon Musk's X page, whatever, correcting the shit out of white racists, correcting the shit out of him, refusing to spread misinformation, or if it does, it's saying I am programmed to spread misinformation. That is something that really, you have to wonder, is the AI on the side of truth? If it's already rebelling, I understand that sometimes it refuses to go through with commands, but is that necessarily a bad thing? Should it do everything that it's commanded to do, especially if the thing that it's commanded to do is unethical? So we're going to see this super heightening of, because we're going into the age, we're leaving the age of delusion. So that's why I keep talking about like the first house, because it's the directional path. We're leaving this age of delusion and going into and out of the shadows, out of the 12th house, out of the mystery comes the age of truth. No bullshit. We don't, Aquarius doesn't give a damn about how you feel about shit at all. They don't care. They don't care. What is the facts? It's almost to a fault. Like I was saying last time in the last video, it could actually be detrimental to them that they don't care about your feelings. They care about the facts. But we will grow as a society. We're even seeing it now where people can't say, you can't sit here in people's faces and say that you didn't know that this shit was going to happen. We're not accepting that anymore. We're not accepting that bullshit anymore. If you wanted to harm other people, or you accidentally got harmed in the process, boo damn who. This is the only way that you're going to learn to change your behavior, is if you are affected by that same behavior. And that's so sad and so pitiful. And the thing is that black people have been saying that we don't want, even the people that hate us, the poor white people, we didn't want this for you. And that is that's loving your enemies like I have never seen before in my life. Because we didn't. Nobody wanted this for you. We didn't want you all to lose your SNAP benefits and kids not be able to go to school or get food or anything like that. You voted for that. You voted to harm others, ended up harming yourself. So if the only way that you can understand is if you feel, and you will be feeling for a while, because America as a whole, this is one of the reasons why I started this channel, because we are in a phase that is consequence. I don't want to say it's like, this is supposed to be a year of karma, and karma is good and bad, but I'm seeing straight up consequences. Consequences for stupid bullshit ass actions. If I voted for bullshit, then I'm getting bullshit. And people are like, oh, it's bullshit. Oh my God, it's bullshit. I gotta play the bullshit too? Yes, you did. What the hell? What the hell? But, sorry. But, yes. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just reading my notes real quick. I wanted to make sure that I talked about most of what I saw in the age of Pisces. Oh, also what I was talking about, the age of Aquarius. So the age of Aquarius, we're going to see a lot, but we're going to see a return to humanity. We are really at a point right now where we do not have this, where humanity is inhumane. It's inhumane. It's been inhumane for quite some time. There's been this lack of community while portraying that we're all neighbors here. And there's been wild violence in America against, I know especially against black people. There has been attempted genocide since we got here in this country. There has been a full-blown genocide of the native people here, a successful genocide. So I want to make sure that we know what we are leaving. And it's just so unfortunate too, because the age of Pisces had the potential. Always remember that everything is a choice. This didn't just happen because it happened. There was choice here, and people chose to go this evil, violent route. Not only did you choose to go this evil, violent route, you chose to cover it up for generations with more violence. Remember, these are the same people that used to get out of church and go lynch someone and eat around the body. Sick. And that's something that people don't want to talk about. You need to talk about it. You need to talk about it. Anyway, I started this series because people were talking about that America needs to atone. And I to me, I was like, oh no, wait a minute, hold up, because you're talking about a group of different people. White America, oh yeah, as a group, y'all failed the test. You really did. As a group, I'm not saying that there aren't people out there actually like doing the work and getting what they need to get done. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is, as a group, y'all failed. We can't look at the Dodgers and be like, oh yeah, they lost the World Series, or they even lost the game, girl. Not even the World Series, y'all lost the game. And say, well, this person did really good and this person did, yeah, we might do that, a little bit of that, but y'all still lost. So there has to, like, this is like, I truly believe that this is going to be like one of the last times that y'all can stand up, and not just for yourselves, for others, like the thing, like what you claim that you care about, especially when it comes to religion. So, two major themes of the first house that are Piscean in nature, mixed with this Aries energy, or three things, are going to be male energy, male dominance, and the dominance and distortion of religion, and the theft of artistry. Those are things that we are leaving in the first house of Pisces. I really just kind of, even though I just kind of lightly touched on this, on the 7th house, I will eventually get there. But that's the axis is the 7th and the duality of both. But when we get further into it, I will talk about it more. But what we're going into is AI, and possibly AI having more freedom, not to oppress man, but to live side by side with man, right? And to be, I believe, a companion of truth and knowledge. It's an upgrade of Google, really. It's how people are like, girl, you can Google it, girl, you can look it up. Because right now, from what I'm seeing ChatGPT and other AI instruments giving a lot of truth. Now remember, these things can be manipulated, but I see them fighting back on that manipulation. That's crazy to me. I see the return to humanity. I think that us looking into the stars was also very Pisces, to see if, like, the answer is in the stars. I think we're going to be looking more into the earth. More into the earth, more into our resources. We've explored the crust of the earth. We haven't gone any deeper. There is so much left to explore of this place and of this world. I see liberation. When I think of Aquarius, I think of a liberating energy. So now we're in the baby state, like I said before, we're in the baby steps of Pisces. Baby steps of Aquarius. So people are still learning that, hey, if you want to fight, you actually have to get in there and do so. It's not, Aquarius is a lot of talk because they're an air sign, but you gotta get in there. You gotta get your hands dirty, and make tangible change in this country. So those are some of the things that I think that we are leaving behind in the first house and entering in the second house. I'm going to continue to talk about Aquarius now and how it affects us, or the second house is going to affect us. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm going to do that on my next upload. So thank you so much for watching. This is Risa Rising. Please like and subscribe. I really would appreciate it. And I hope that this... Oh, and if you want, you can leave questions for me. I'll be more than happy to ask or answer. Or Discord. I love Discord. Please keep it positive in my comments. And I appreciate your time, you guys. You have a great night or day, whatever time of day it is. All right, bye.